Well, good Tuesday afternoon, everybody. Meteorologist Greg Majewski back with you here in the North Georgia Majestic Weather Studios with your weather update here on your January the 27th, 2026. Well, things were definitely bone-chilling cold out across all of North Georgia for this morning, and things are at least a little bit milder today, and I think that trend will continue for a couple days, but you know what? Things are getting a little interesting for the upcoming weekend forecast. We got a lot to dive into, and yeah, that little four-letter word that begins with an S, I'm not talking about sleet. It's in the forecast. We'll talk about that in greater detail here in just a second. Now, before we get going, if you live anywhere here across North Georgia, please consider making this one of your YouTube weather sources. So please hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. Very important you do that so that you're alerted on future weather updates just like these. All right? All right, let's get into today's look as we're looking at Helen, Georgia. Slowly but surely getting the power crews through. And as on cue, here comes the power truck coming through the area. Still working on that. About some 11,000 still without power in the area, and I know parts of Helen still do not have power. Hopefully they'll get some here real soon. Up near Lake Chattooga, looking pretty good. Got a lot of blue skies out there, looking pretty nice here for this afternoon. As you can see, those lake levels are still pretty low, and unfortunately, they're going to stay low, folks, because we really don't have any big opportunities for rain here over the next couple of weeks. We're in a pretty dry, locked-in northwest flow and a dry weather pattern here across the area, but a beautiful day at the lake. Definitely looking pretty nice there. Watches and warnings, nothing to worry about there. No cold weather advisories for tonight. That will change for this weekend. I can promise you that. We'll see that back again here for the weekend. At minimum, I know that's going to happen. Now, as we go ahead and look at our local radar, again, we're looking pretty good, except for the fact that we're still tracking those outages, still sitting at about 11,607. And, of course, right there in White County, they're one of the highest at 3,608. And still looking up toward Raven County, they're about 3,200 or so. So they're still tracking to get this power back online slowly but surely, and hopefully they get it soon because it's been awfully cold, and the last thing you want to deal with in the cold is have no power, obviously. All right, let's go look at our satellite picture. We're going to see some of these clouds moving in for tonight. Could be a little bit of fly in the ointment for the temperatures for tonight. If they're thick enough, they could keep our temperatures up a degree or two, or they may bottom out and come up a little bit. Just keep that in mind when you look at our forecast here in just a second. Now look at our regional radar. Temperatures warming in there for this afternoon into the 30s. We'll see a few 40s for our afternoon highs, but you kind of see that big area of high pressure here kind of stretched out here from the Carolinas going all the way back here to Louisiana there and all the way back here. So we got a nice big area of high pressure here across the southeast, setting up for a nice day. Plenty of sunshine. Definitely need sunglasses, but really not looking all that bad. Now we got to go ahead and get into the model data. We're going to first take a look at the intermediate model here first. So we're going to paint this picture going out the next 84 hours. So again, watch that little timestamp there in that upper right-hand corner here as we go forward here. As we're going to stay cold. Again, whenever you see this blue line this far south, that's our freezing line. You know it is very cold here across the area. It's going to start coming up to the north there a little bit. This will temperatures will moderate just a little bit, but not all that much. We're going to be watching this little disturbance. You see it back over there toward Arkansas as we go into Friday. So we're going to watch this little disturbance kind of riding this way. And with more energy coming up from the north, we're going to see the possibility of a coastal low start to take form. So this goes out till 7 o'clock. So showing some snows up across portions of Tennessee, Mississippi, some light showers down off to the south. Now, as we go ahead and take a look at the European model here, it's not showing that feature for the same time frame. So it's fairly weak. So that could make a difference on whether we see any precipitation, say, late Friday into Friday night. Now, what we are seeing here on the European is we're seeing this dive of the polar vortex. Now, this one here, as you're looking at this, is a little bit further to the east as compared to the GFS. We're going to show you that one here as well. But you do see here, as we go into Saturday, the eastern areas of Georgia see showing some snow in here, a little bit heavier over here toward the Carolinas as we go through the day on Saturday. So Saturday's looking a little snowy there, and this pushes off the eastern seaboard and pushes on out to sea. All right, and that's it going into early next week. Now let's compare this to the American GFS model. Okay, it shows that same feature that the NAM was showing, all right? So both American models are showing that little feature there, one on the intermediate, one on the global. This comes on through. Now, this feature, here's the difference, real big difference between both models. Look where the polar vortex is here. It is a little bit further off toward the west. Why is that important? Well, that means a little more of this heavier moisture getting back in here. So the snow amounts potential are a little bit higher, but still favoring those eastern zones. So they're both kind of in agreement here that eastern Georgia is under the gun here, northeast Georgia especially, for some potential snow as this goes on through again for Saturday afternoon and pulls on out. Now, regardless, you're going to be cold, very frigid. I've been a lot of places across North Georgia on Saturday. You do not get above freezing. Sunday, you may briefly get above freezing, but a very cold and frigid weekend ahead for all of North Georgia as we go into early next week. And then the temperatures begin to modify a little bit going into next week. So let's go ahead and take a look here at the snow probability map. Okay, this is on the European model here. Again, showing you get East Georgia. That's getting about 50% here across these eastern zones and taking us off to about 10% back here. So, but we got a little bit of potential for some snow showing up there on the model. So let's first take a look at the European snow model. I'm going to go ahead and shift this down for you here. There you go. And generally not all that heavy, but you do see generally looking at maybe an inch of snow in here across these eastern zones. All right, 1.5 inches. I see an inch. Here's 1.5 inches up this way. Here's another 1 inch here. So nothing to 1 inch. Ground temperatures are plenty cold. Obviously, it's been very cold here across the area, so they will be around. And it's going to be very cold to begin with, so it'll stick. And those bridges and overpasses could once again freeze. That's enough liquid precipitation to cause problems there. Now let's compare to this one to the American GFS model. Let's switch over to the GFS model. Yeah, a little bit more, definitely a little more, that's for sure on this particular model, as it's going, here's 2.5 inches up here, here's 5 inches up here near Toccoa. Look at over toward Lake Hartwell, 4.5 inches, but a very sharp drop off here between 1 inch and nothing. So, but it does favor the eastern zones. So you folks over in the west, not showing anything here. What you see here is that weak little disturbance that's kind of riding through there. We'll have to watch that closely. But for the most part, we get a little disagreement between the two models there. So stay tuned. We got a few more days to watch this. But it looks like eastern Georgia, northeast Georgia especially, is looking like the potential for a little snow here going into this upcoming Saturday. All right, so look at our forecast maps. Watch this as we kind of go through the next 7 days. Watch that little timestamp there on top as we go ahead and tick through this, as we're looking pretty quiet here on Wednesday. Really a lot of high pressure there on Wednesday, and going into Thursday, no problems there. Pretty nice. And then going into Friday, we got to watch that little disturbance here. Again, you got this little wintry mix here with snow and rain there across North Georgia going into Friday. It really all depends on the development of that little weak low pressure system in the Gulf, which is going to spawn a bigger one there off the southeast coast. You see this little trough line kind of stinging back in there. That moisture is being pulled back in there because of the polar vortex there. And where that thing sets up is going to be critical on what kind of moisture gets pulled inland or not. All right, then going into Sunday, we clear on out. There'll be still a bit of a breeze here. I expect the wind chills on the European model, for especially going into Saturday and Sunday morning, we're both showing potential for below zero wind chills for both days here. And then Monday, it kind of starts to lessen up a little bit. And then we go into Tuesday, the temperatures will begin to moderate a little bit. Still below normal, but at least getting back, at least warming up just a little bit, not the Arctic chill we're going to have here over the weekend. All right, so let's look at your forecast here for tomorrow. Gainesville, 44-25. A little bit better, normal highs, lows are low 50s, low 30s for this time of year, so not as cold. Looking at your regional temperatures, again, the one thing I'll say about these temperatures, if the cloud deck that's going to be blowing through tonight is a little thicker, you can add a few degrees to these. I don't think anybody will complain, but they're still going to be below freezing here, and definitely not as cold as we saw this morning. Many areas were down into the single digits and lower end of the teens, so not as cold here for tonight. And then going in here for tomorrow, again, most areas here in the 40s, that will take for sure, as we say a little goodbye to those 30-degree highs for right now. Region looking like this, 34 up in Nashville, about 54 over in Mobile, 49 down in Columbus, 39 Asheville, and 57 down in Jacksonville. All right, here's the 7-day forecast. Right now, I'm just putting a slight chance of snow on the forecast, like for the Gainesville area. They're kind of on the edge of this thing. 20%, that potentially could go up depending on the track of that low. Pretty uniform here the next few days, mid 40s, middle up to upper 20s here. But we do turn colder for the weekend. I suspect by the time we get below freezing on Friday, maybe we get a little above on Sunday, but it may be Monday for a lot of folks that get out of the freezing there. And then we're kind of back in the mid 40s going toward Tuesday. So we got a little winter weather, nothing really locked in just yet, but the potential's there. We could see the potential for I would say winter weather advisory at least. I don't know if we'll get to winter storm criteria for the eastern zones of northeast Georgia. The big question will be the amount of snow, if we get it, and what kind of icing that'll do. The temperatures are going to be very cold, so this is a complete snow event. It's either snow or get nothing at all. It really depends on where that low develops. If it develops too far off the coast, you got nothing, just a lot of cold. So again, that's why the unknowns are still there. And folks keep asking me, do I think it'll come further west? I don't believe that'll be the case. I think it's more likely to go to the right, to the east, than it is to come back to the west. But we'll watch it very closely. The polar vortex really is going to have a big say on where that moisture goes. Again, I appreciate you guys checking us out here on the channel. Again, if you're new and you live anywhere across here in North Georgia, please consider this one of your weather sources. So hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you're alerted on future content. You got to do that, folks, because if you don't do that, YouTube will never let you know that I posted a new updated forecast. So please do that and help us grow our channel. All right, that's it for now. You guys take it easy, be good, stay safe, and we'll see you tomorrow. You guys have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.